Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal, and a brand new farm is finally out within Legion Remix. If you're somebody who's trying to max out a character so you can solo all of the hardest content at some point, you want to make sure that you're farming up as much infinite power to boost up your weapon as much as possible. Previously, we had a bunch of different farms within the Legion content that all ended up getting inevitably nerfed when it comes to how much farming you could do for your infinite power gains. However, with the release of the Legion Fall update, we got access to Broken Shore, but also to Sentinex farming, which was a thing that was available back during Legion that was intended as an endless farming grind for players to partake in, and that farming grind has been brought back in for a remix specifically. Compared to some of the other farms which are not intentional, Sentinex farming is an intentional feature of the zone that is Broken Shore. And with some players reporting of being able to obtain up to 1 million infinite power per hour, this actually makes it one of the best farming spots for you to take advantage of as soon as possible. So I wanted to go over exactly how to maximize your farm, as well as what Sentinex farming is and how to really get into it. And the best part is it's all incredibly easy to jump into. But with that being said, as always, if you guys want to keep up with any future WoW updates being for Legion Remix or for possibly other content like War Within, future patches like 11.2.7 or Midnight Beta out very soon, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe. But otherwise, let's dive right in. So as you can see, literally behind me, some farming is already going on with millions of demons getting slaughtered fairly regularly, and it's definitely worth diving into this as soon as possible. But if you're really trying to maximize your benefits of how much infinite power you can gain, you want to first make sure that you are up in your knowledge. And right now you can actually cap out to 36 knowledge if you're being very efficient. Previously we had a bunch of other achievements that have released ever since Legion Remix launched, as well as with the first phase update that allowed you to reach about 32 total knowledge. But right now with some of the new events that are active right now during Legion Fall, you can cap out at 36, and you definitely should do this first because it makes all the other infinite power you earn afterwards that much more efficient. Some of the new quests that are available this time around during this Legion Fall update is actually a lot of them, like 6 different new quests that give you even more infinite knowledge that are going to be fantastic for you to cap out rather quickly. Breaching the Tomb will be one of the main things you will want to focus on, as it's mainly just the main story quest line within campaign of the Legion Fall area, or rather on the Broken Shore, which isn't really story quests necessarily. It isn't necessarily like some quest line that you really get to follow up. It's more just like busy work on the Isle. And for the most part, you just run around collecting treasures, slaying demons, either rares or just cannon fodder demons, completing a variety of different objectives, maybe striking an assault, things like that. It's just a lot of busy work for the most part, and it's pretty easy to do, but it's mostly just running around and doing a bunch of chores, and that's a fairly easy way to get at least 1 knowledge point. Defending the Broken Isles, there's actually 2 quests for this, or 2 achievements. One of them is just to complete a Legion Assault that's active, and the other is to complete 5 of them to get the second part of this achievement. So Legion Assaults are going to be these events right here that are happening on the map, and you'll see them with an icon over an area. These spawn roughly every 6 hours or so. Right now there's one active on Asuna, and while it's active, you'll actually receive a bunch of different world quests that are active within an assault. You complete those to do the next part, and then you do a bit more of like this next quest line where you go into an area, slaying a bunch of enemies, usually slay one powerful enemy at the end of the run, and then you get to queue into a scenario which takes 3 people to queue together. I've noticed a lot of people just partying up in order to make it as quick as possible, but in this scenario you get to also go to a specific area, fight off a bunch of demons, fly up to usually some demon structure or a demon spaceship, take out the leader, and then escape scot-free. And you're going to be able to have a bunch of the scenarios that'll happen in Stormheim, High Mountain, Val'sharah, and Asuna for the most part. And they don't really take that much to do, but definitely worth jumping into as soon as they are available. Heroic Cathedral of Eternal Night is also another easy way for you to be able to get 1 more infinite knowledge, whether you do it on a group or run it by solo. Definitely worth to go out of your way. Fairly quick dungeon for the most part, and all you gotta do is defeat the final boss on heroic or higher difficulty. And also completing the entirety of Tomb of Sigur's for every single boss on any difficulty of choice is also an easy way for you to get 1 extra infinite knowledge point. Now, this can be completed on Mythic, but also can be completed on Normal, especially some of you that are, let's say, not that like raid experienced. You may want to avoid the mythic version of Chimera Sargeras, at least the final boss of Sargeras, because, well, the boss, even if you have, let's say, like, infinite amounts of infinite power, certain classes do struggle with that fight, especially because of the knockbacks. Because if you get knocked off the platform, that's it, you got one shot. It doesn't matter how much versatility and how powerful your weapon is, how good your gear is, because the boss goes in an immune phase and you actually have to do some of the mechanics. So maybe this will be easier or like normal or something for some of you, but definitely worth running through Chimera Sargeras at least once. Just be careful with that final boss on higher difficulties because it is pretty punishing unless you play it correctly. We also have Broken Shore world bosses, and there's 4 of them that rotate daily, so it actually is going to take only a handful of days in order to be able to get 1 extra knowledge point from this one. But we have Maleficus, we had Sivash that were up, Brutalis hasn't been up yet, or Upacron have not been up yet, at least over on the NA realms, but I'm assuming over the next few days they're probably going to show up. So this is a fairly easy one to do, and these world bosses spawn at the same time as the other zone world bosses. So previously I think they used to bug each other out in spawns, but now Broken Shore world bosses spawn separately, while the rest of the world bosses in the rest of the zone also will spawn separately. So even more world bosses for you to take out in a day. Now, once you get yourself maxed out with some of the knowledge points that are available, included with some of the achievements from previous phases of Legion Remix launch, now you can do Centinex portal farming, and that's essentially what's happening behind me. Occasionally, Centinex portal will start to spawn in various locations of the Broken Shore, and one of the best ways that you could tell where they're spawning is by the massive Legion spaceship that is hovering above. So if you see a massive Legion spaceship way up in the sky, that's where you know the Centinex portals are going to be. And this farm of Centinex portals is something that was actually available way back in Legion and was originally set up as a intended farming method, primarily for nether shards, I believe, as a currency. But in Legion Remix, since nether shards don't really do anything, you can use it for infinite power farming instead. Slaying these demons awards you with a decent bit of infinite power, and since you have so many demons popping out, there's a pretty high chance that it'll award you those legendary infinite power increases, the mementos, so it gives you quite a lot of overall stats for you to upgrade your weapon with fairly regularly. As you slay demons from Sentinel portals, they also drop more Centinex beacons, and those beacons can then be used to launch even more portals and extend the duration of active portals. And also with these beacons, there's many types. They all have different colors, and they all are related to some sort of a, they all correlate to some sort of a portal spawn within a local area. But there's many different locations that they can spawn a handful of these portals. So as long as you pick a spot where like all these beacons have a portal spawning nearby, those usually end up being some of the better farming spots. Like it looks like in this area right here, it looks like this spot right here is key. You have portals down below, a couple of portals next to you, one downhill, one on the side. And if you have right classes in your group, you could probably get all of these tags as a group fairly regularly. So it's essentially like a self-automated, self-running infinite farm, because you basically kill demons, they give you portals, and you spawn even more portals, they give you even more demons, they give you even more beacons, and all of them keep rewarding you plenty of infinite knowledge, which makes this super hyper efficient and definitely worth your time. And the only thing you really need for this is to just start killing some demons, getting more beacons, and then you just get yourself a chain of spawning demons that are just endlessly pouring out of these portals. And compared to some of the other open world farms that we've had, Centinex portals were a feature back in Legion that was meant to be an ever farming, ever grinding type of a area where you could just farm demons endlessly. Like it was intended as a farming method, so compared to the other farms that we've seen before where enemies were hyper spawning or spawning a little more regularly than others, which were considered not intended, this is an intended farming method for the Broken Shore specifically. So because this was an intended farm back in Legion, likely I don't think they'll end up nerfing this or clamping down on this in Legion Remix, because it's intended to be an infinite farming spot, but they're just replacing the currency that you're obtaining from demons this time around. The portals themselves are also very efficient, with many players reporting of them being able to obtain up to 1 million infinite power per hour, if not more, which is very solid compared to some of the other farms that we've seen in the past. Now, if you are going to be farming this, certain classes are actually going to be, in certain specs, are going to be a little bit better for this farm than others. Classes like Boomkins and Hunters, and even Brewmaster Monks in particular, are extremely efficient. So if you have access to those classes or those specs, or if you want to invite those classes and specs to your groups, that'll also be even better, because those are the classes that are really good at tagging mobs from a distance, or even potentially better at grouping enemies up together. So if you have a bunch of portals and you have a couple of classes that can tag those mobs immediately, if you're running as a 5-man party, that'll make it even easier for you to be able to stay on top of your demons and slay them as soon as they spawn, which will hopefully give you quite a lot of overall farming power. What's awesome is these portals do spawn fairly close, so even if you don't have those classes as part of your farm, you still can do it fairly efficiently, especially in certain locations. Like there's this whole like Night Elfish ruins area, a little, I would say even, I think north, a little bit more north. I would say like above Vengeance Point right here, there was a spawn with Sentinex portals, and a couple of portals, like 4 or 5 of them, were incredibly close together, where we had a group of Death Knights and Paladins, and you didn't really have to go super far in order to get all your mobs stacked up. So that's what makes some of these portal farming even more efficient, is just because they are in fairly close proximity. So even if you don't have those like really good mob tagging classes, you're still gonna have plenty of efficiency when you want to farm up demons endlessly from this. You should be a little bit careful with the Sentinex ship above, however, because if you're farming mobs, it eventually builds up like, I think, a hidden timer for the ship itself, and eventually as you're farming enough mobs, it'll actually start to barrage and rain down hellfire on the portal spawns and even on players, and the actual barrage can hurt. Even if you have a very geared character with a lot of versatility, for instance, you can still take a lot of damage from this barrage. Specifically, even my Paladin, who has roughly between like 300 and 400 versatility, was actually still taking notable bits of damage from that. So if you see that massive barrage kind of crawling all towards you, you want to make sure to avoid it, but it's not like disruptive enough for you to be able to completely stop your farming. Just be a little bit more careful, because the ship actually does mean business. But with that, as always, I do want to thank all of you guys so much for watching, and hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did enjoy it or found it informative, go ahead and give it a like, as I would very much appreciate it. It helps out the channel tremendously. Be sure to join our Discord community, especially with some of the upcoming updates like Midnight Alpha actually going into Midnight Beta, or any of the other major updates within Legion Remixes. We get additional phases. Let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below, and as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.